Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Napoleon and today we are back with another Enlisted video. And today we're going to be talking about the latest Enlisted weapon, and this is the Cheeto Late. This was essentially a Japanese tank based on the Chi-Nu chassis, and it was kind of interesting. So without further ado, let's just get started. And starting with the first thing, and that is the history. The lackluster tank performance of Japan in World War II called for the development of quote-unquote newer medium tanks in the IJA, that being the Imperial Japanese Army. The standard tank of the time was the Chi-Ha, which was, let's just say, outdated at best, and it was used in many expedient models to provide a bigger gun, such as the Chi-Ha-Kai, the Chi-He, the Ho-Ai, and the Chi-Nu. By the time of the Chi-Nu, the Chi-Ha chassis was quote-unquote outdated, which it was, and so new tank design was used to improve chassis and needed for further development. In 1943, the development of the Cheeto tank, which featured a new chassis and a powerful engine. The 75mm gun, based on the Type 88 anti-aircraft gun, was given as the new weapon. The armor of the tank was welded and had a quite thick in comparison to its predecessor at 75mm thick. The tank itself was adapted for service in 1944 and expected to enter mass production within 20 months at Mitsubishi and 5 months in other factories. In terms of the Japanese armor development, the Cheeto was the most sophisticated tank to ever enter product levels. Despite its potential, the Cheeto was never made in large numbers, and at the war's end, 6 chassis were made, which is kind of sad. And in recording, the Cheeto Late was an upgraded and more streamlined version of the Cheeto itself. As a matter of fact, the turret design was made to ease production, and the armor was slightly more angled to give it more effectiveness against armor than its initial trials. And with that said, let's move on to the stats, which are actually pretty easy. The crew of 5 is actually pretty decent. The armament of 75mm Type 2 Model 2 cannon has 75 rounds. It has 38 APHE shells and 37 HE shells. It has a machine gun, to be exact. It has 2 machine guns, but none of them are connected to the gunner itself, so you literally have to go to the commander or you have to go to the machine gunner who is in the hull. The whole armor is 75, side of 35, back of 35, and bottom of 20, whereas the turret is 75, 50, 50, and 20. The engine power is 425 at 1600 RPM, and the weight is around 30 tons. That said, let's move on to the verdict, and the verdict is very dang simple. Like with other Japanese tanks, which you have or should play by now, this tank is nothing special. As a matter of fact, compared to, let's just say, the Chi-Ri and various other Japanese tanks, including but not limited to the Cheeto itself, this tank is offering no surprises. The armor is quote-unquote better than the Cheeto, the original one, but if anything, this armor will get you one shot. And considering that we're fighting the Soviets, which is going to be very, very soon, and this vehicle was one of those tanks which I think Enlisted wanted to face against the Soviets, it's not going to end well, mainly because the Soviets not only have better armor, and in all reality, this tank is not going to do much. As a matter of fact, for those who are wondering the penetration of the gun is actually pretty decent, with the gun doing somewhere around 148 meters of penetration and 151 meters of penetration respectively. It is just not going to match some tanks such as the T-34-85, or, if you're very unlucky, even the IS-2 or IS tank series of tanks. The issue with the tanks like this is that you are essentially a sitting death trap, and if you do end up facing Soviet or American tanks for that case, you pray to God that you can one-shot them, and if you can't, then you're apparently a sitting duck. Because number one, you're slower than most Soviet/American tanks, and your gun is not that good compared to Soviet/American tanks. What is good is the fact that this gun, and the AP shell, and the HE shell, both have what you would call HE filler, and that is pretty dang good. And the reason why that's pretty dang good is because, well, you can essentially splash enemies with this, and that's very, very good. But against pure tanks is not as good. As a matter of fact, this is quite literally what you would call an anti-infantry tank, except for, well, the gun is quite slower than most 75s, and let's just be honest, there are other tanks that can do the job of anti-tank and anti-infantry very, very well, much better than this thing. So without further ado, have a great day, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.